What's going on, guys? Caden Aiden here, back with another video on Word of God, and today we got a big video for you guys. Aiden, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Ken, how you feeling?
Feeling great. We're back together. First video, and let's get right into it. So the first thing we got to talk about, major trade in the NBA. Russell Westbrook is headed to the Los Angeles Lakers. He's going home. The Lakers sent over him a 2024 second-round pick and a 2028 second-round pick. In return, the Wizards got Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and a 2021 first-round pick, which they used on Isaiah Jackson, a forward out of Kentucky. It seems pretty clear, but Aiden, who won and who lost this trade?
I mean, the Lakers clearly won the trade. I mean, there's not really much to think about. They got the way better player, and they dumped off Kuzma, who has become recently a major reason the Lakers have been so poorly in the playoffs, and just in general.
Yeah, this trade has to be one of the worst trades in NBA history for the Wizards. You give up your player, your MVP level type of player who led you guys to the play-in last year, and you get back Kyle Kuzma, who is not good at basketball, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's all right, probably the best player you guys got back here,
and Montrezl Harrell.
Well, Montrezl Harrell, but he didn't really play for the Lakers.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about in the regular season was I don't know why Montrezl Harrell didn't play.
Yeah.
But she knows maybe this Isaiah Jackson guy, maybe that's who they really wanted. So
I know Isaiah Jackson is solid, but this is a terrible trade for the Wizards. The Lakers won it. They got their point guard that they needed. They got their player who is probably not necessarily a better fit than Chris Paul, but is probably a better player as far as just straight up skill set goes than Chris Paul. This is a dub for the Lakers. I mean, they have a big three now. So where does this put the Lakers in terms of the rest of the Western Conference? Because I know we see a lot of people, they're locked for first, but I don't necessarily think that's true.
Well, I said at the beginning of this trade, I think people are going to overreact to this trade a lot.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, it's a big trade, but I mean, the question is, where does it put the Lakers in terms of Western Conference? It puts them in contention, but
not a lock for number one.
They're not a lock for number one.
Yeah.
I'd put them in a third or second seed.
No, they're still solid teams. Phoenix is still solid. The Clippers are still solid. Dallas could potentially be solid. Just off the top of my head, but this is not automatic lock, right? You have three good players. Injuries happen. This is what ESPN fails to realize. Injuries happen to every team. That's a big part of who makes it to the finals and who doesn't. Players underperform. We don't know how Westbrook is going to fit with AD and Bron, which I assume it'll be not that bad. I assume it'll be a pretty solid fit. But you still don't know about that type of stuff. They're not a lock for number one for me. They're definitely up there. They probably, if I had to bet on it, they probably would be the 1 or 2 seed. But they're not a lock for it automatically. Yeah. The Lakers didn't just buy their ticket to the finals with this trade.
Well, I think the Lakers have to get shooters.
They do. They need
because if LeBron is the best shooter on your team, you got issues.
And I know it's kind of like a lot of people have been making it seem as like a meme, like, the Lakers need shooters, but they actually do. I find it's one of the memes that's actually more accurate because you get rid of Caldwell Pope, who was one of your best shooters, and then Kuzma, who wasn't one of your best shooters, but he's definitely one of them.
Well, the thing is about Caldwell Pope saying he'd be one of your best shooters, he's not even.
Nah, exactly.
He's really not even a good shooter.
They weren't a good shooting team to begin with.
They haven't been. Even when they won the chip, I don't think they were a good shooting team.
No, not really.
But even now, I mean, Westbrook, he's a horrible three-point shooter. He knocks him down in the clutch sometimes. Don't get me wrong, but he cannot shoot threes, and I don't want him to shoot threes for me.
Yeah.
AD can stretch the floor, but he can only. But that's compared to other big men in the league. He's not like he can't like. It's not like Karl Anthony Towns or Karl Anthony Towns. He's just a good 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Whereas AD, he's a good 3-point shooter compared to his position.
Right. Yeah. So that's an interesting trade, and we're gonna have to see how that plays out. So now we're going on to the MLB trade deadline, one of the craziest trade deadlines of all time. This was insane. I was just on my phone, just looking, and it was crazy. So the first news we're gonna talk about. I'm not going to sugarcoat it with you guys. It sucks. I mean, it sucks. I hate it. But the Yankees went ahead and went out and got Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo. So since I'm a Rangers fan, we're going to talk about the Joey Gallo part first. And I kind of just straight up told you guys, it sucks. This dude's like my favorite player. He's young. He said multiple times that he wants to be here, which you don't get that often, someone that wants to be on a non-contending team. And you go out and you don't even get a top 10 prospect in the Yankee system. unexplainable to me. You have Joey Gallo is probably up there in terms of top 3 players that got traded in this trade deadline, and you don't even get a top 10 prospect for him.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking, Aiden? What are your thoughts?
I mean, you said it perfectly.
They
right there.
screwed us over.
The Rangers. I don't even know what they're thinking. They gave up Joey Gallo for nothing, like a couple minor leaguers.
And I mean, one thought too, the Ranger fans are gonna remember here is like this is a similar trade to when we traded Mark Teixeira to the Braves for Elvis, Matt Harrison, Neftali Feliz, but that's a stretch. Like I'm just holding on to any hope that I can at this point. Like that's such a stretch. So that's our Rangers fan thoughts on that. It sucks. That's all I can say. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Yankees also went out and got another bat, first baseman Anthony Rizzo for the Cubs. They didn't really need a first baseman, but I think just trying to get another bat in that lineup. Your thoughts on that?
For the Yankees, at least?
For the Yankees, yes. We're going to get to the Cubs later.
I'm not saying that the Yankees are going to be like winning it all this year or something like that, but it can definitely, put them in a decent playoff position.
So we're going to talk about where they rank among teams in the AL East. Where do you think, because on paper, this is no doubt the best team in the AL East, but it doesn't necessarily reflect that in the standings. What do you think about that?
I mean, they could very easily be in the wild card,
Yeah, they're more of a wild card right now.
It's almost like they're probably the best team, like you said, but do they have enough time to get to the top?
Yeah, they're still 7.5 out of the AL East, because when we were doing research for this episode, I was like, oh, they'll probably win the East, but then they're still 7.5 out. The Rays are still good. The Red Sox are still good. I think they're the best team on paper in the East. Do I think they'll make the wild card? Probably, but I don't. This doesn't automatically make them the best team in the AL East. I think that the Rays and the Red Sox still have an advantage over them, just because it's hard to make up 7.5 games.
For sure.
Not saying it's impossible, but it's hard to do that. So the Yankees definitely have had a solid trade deadline. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a division. We're going to talk about the NL West. Holy trades in the NL West. First off, we got to get into, in my opinion, the best trade in the trade deadline. The Dodgers going out and getting not only Max Scherzer from the Nationals, but they get Trey Turner. Aiden, your thoughts on that one?
I mean, the Dodgers are always good, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the Dodgers.
The Dodgers, they went out and did stuff, right? They're not first in the NL West. The Giants are still first. But if you look at the Dodgers, they've been playing better baseball. They're right there. It's like here and here. And you go out and not only get Max Scherzer, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball, to add to your already loaded pitching rotation. You go out and get Trey Turner, who's one of the best shortstops in baseball. And you have versatility with him. If you want to slide Corey Seager over to second and put Turner at short, you can do that. Or if you want to put Turner in the outfield, you can do that with his speed. Really good bat. It's going to get on base, going to steal some bases. And that's a dub for the Dodgers, absolutely.
So next up, the Giants get Chris Bryant. So, Kane, what are your thoughts on that?
They took advantage of the Cubs' garage sale that they had. Chris Bryant was the best player on the Cubs. He's a little, if I were to say, a little on the overrated side, just like most of the Cubs were. But at the same time, it's a good trade, no doubt. The Giants went out, they got their bat. Okay, if you look at the Giants, right, no one expected them to be there. And now they had a team that was solid but not great. And now you go out and you get an all-star player, Chris Bryant. That's a great trade. What are your thoughts?
I mean, exactly. I'm not really sure what the Cubs are thinking, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about who do you think is the favorite in the NL West with all those trades? Because you look at the Giants, they go out and get Chris Bryant. Dodgers get Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. And you look at the Padres, who are still in contention but didn't do anything. Who do you think is the now favorite in the NL West?
Probably the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Dodgers.
You're absolutely right. It's the Dodgers. They've been playing better recently. Could they have won the World Series with the team they have now? Probably. But they went out. They made additions to the team. 2 of the best players in baseball, and they're clearly the favorite now.
All right. So next up, the New York Mets got Javi Baez.
Javi Baez.
I got the last name right, I think. So, Kane, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really like this for the Mets. It's not obviously not a positional need with Lindor there, but Baez can play second, he can play third. Him and Lindor, close friends on the Puerto Rican team, and they needed something, right? This was their big trade. They needed something. They're first place in the NL East. They're trying to fight off the Braves and the Phillies, who aren't great, but they're still in contention.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good trade for the Mets. You added that bat. They also added Rich Hill earlier, so they got that solid pitcher as well. They needed to upgrade. Because if I would have told you before the Hobby Bias trade, I would have told you the Mets are probably a team that loses in the division series. But now I really like them. You know, you're adding runs to that lineup. So I like this trade. What about you?
I mean, same thing. I think it definitely makes him a lock for the NL East.
Yeah, no doubt. If you look at the other teams in the NL East, aren't even above 500, and you got the Mets there hanging above 500. That definitely helps them out. I think it makes them a lock to win the NL East. So the next thing we got, the Chicago Cubs sell off everybody. The Cubs traded Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Craig Kimbrell, and others. Aiden, your thoughts?
It's one of those things where it's just like, what are you thinking? You know? What are you trying to accomplish? It's the same thing with the Westbrook trade. You know? What are you thinking? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by this? I mean, I don't know. They could be trying to get young players.
They were trying to blow it up. Absolutely. If you look at this Cubs team, I've said for years that this Cubs team is the most overrated team in baseball, right? They get that World Series in 2016, and then they can't make it back. With the same core, they can't make it back. Baseball's a hard sport, right? It's not like basketball where if you have the best roster, then you are, you know, not necessarily going to win, but you have a really good shot. Baseball's hard.
It has to be solid though.
You have to have a solid team all around. And the Cubs, if you look at almost every single one of their core players, a bit overrated. And they just led them being the most overrated team in baseball. I mean, they lost to the Marlins in the wild card round last year. They were blowing it up. It's time to blow it up. Were they like one solid, really good piece away from being back in the World Series? Probably, but they could have went in either direction. They decided to blow it up. So next up, we're going into our trade deadline winners and losers. Aiden, you want to start off with your winner?
My winner was the Yankees.
Yeah. Why was that?
Because they got Joey Gallo, man.
Simple as that. They got Joey Gallo.
But also, I'll say something too is, man, Gallo looks weird with his beard shaved.
Weird with his beard shaved. So that's Aiden's winner. My winner was the LA Dodgers. Could they have done nothing in the trade deadline and been all right? Sure, but they went out and got. I already told you guys they went out and got two of the best players in baseball to put them right there in terms of the NL and the NL West. The Dodgers absolutely won the trade deadline. So now getting into my loser, and it's in the same division. My loser is the San Diego Padres. Right now, there were losers like the Rangers in terms of teams that weren't trying to do anything, that were selling. But the Padres needed to be aggressive, and they simply weren't. They already sit in third place in the NL West.
They didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything to help them out, really. They acquired a few arms, but that wasn't the big trade. They thought they were getting Max Scherzer, and then that deal fell through. They didn't do simply anything that they needed to, and they're the big loser here.
My big loser, personally, was the Cubs, just because they blew it all up. They traded away everything.
Yeah.
And they didn't even get that much back in return.
It's as simple as that, really.
It's easy as that.
Coming up next, we got the NBA draft, big time draft, lots of amazing selections. Gonna run you guys through the top 5 at number 1. Obviously, a lock for number 1 to the Pistons. Getting Cade Cunningham.
With the first pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State University.
Big hug.
Next up to our Houston Rockets, we selected Jalen Green. What a pickup right there. Number 3 to the Cavs, Evan Mobley. Number 4 to the Raptors, Scotty Barnes. And number 5 to the Magic, Jalen Suggs. Aiden, your overall thoughts on the top 5?
My overall thoughts is just that I don't really know why the Raptors drafted Scotty Barnes. I feel like Suggs was definitely the best available player, but, you know, who knows what the team's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, with Barnes, is he a top 5 player in the draft? Maybe. Is he the 4th best player in the draft? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think he's still a good player, but like I feel like they really need that leadership type of point guard, and that's what you get with Jalen Suggs. But the Raptors just didn't take him. And I mean, for the Rockets, I love the pick of Jalen Green. I think every team in the top 5 did pretty solid. Mobley is good for the Cavs. They didn't need to pick another guard. Suggs is really good for the Magic. I guarantee you the Magic didn't think they were going to get him. So now we're going to talk about our draft winners and losers. We each have one winner, one loser. And Aiden, who's your winner?
The Houston Rockets, baby.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
We got Jalen Green, got the Turkish League MVP.
Yeah, that was a really solid
And we
trade.
got Josh Christopher.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, we were both disappointed that we didn't get Cameron Thomas.
Yeah.
Cam Thomas from LSU, which is one of his favorite colleges to watch as far as all sports.
Yeah. It might have been a little biased there, but he was a steal for the Nets at what, you got 27, I believe?
27, yeah. We were talking about it, like,
he's a top 15 talent.
He really is, but he won't get much playing time just because he's
not on the Nets.
Not on the Nets,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a low pick.
Yeah.
Even if he went to the Rockets, I'm not sure how much playing time he would even get.
But definitely more than he would on the Nets. It
For
sucks because we have that connection there, but that's just didn't happen. I agree the Rockets were a winner. So my winner was the Golden State Warriors. They get Kuminga at 7, who was a top 5 talent, and they also get Moses Moody, who they wanted to pick at 7, but he fell all the way to 14 for them. That's a really good draft for the Warriors. I think they're a winner just based on those picks alone.
So yeah, definitely for me, my winner, my top 2 are definitely Rockets and then Warriors. I might be a little bit biased just towards the Rockets, but still, I still think the Rockets and Warriors definitely have the biggest dubs of this NBA draft.
So now we're going to talk about who didn't have big dubs in this draft. Your loser, Aiden?
Sacramento Kings, man. Doing it again. Doing what they do best. Messing it up. You know? They drafted Davion Mitchell, which I'm not saying he's a bad prospect.
I love that pick. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan saying the Kings won the draft, but I think someone was going to get Mitchell as a steal. I don't mind that pick, but I feel like they should have went through, like, they got to get rid of Buddy Hield.
I mean, they don't need to draft another guard. De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
They don't need anymore.
And there was definitely more talent available than they could have
and
taken.
Davion Mitchell's 22 years old, so he's not going to be like a big prospect in like 3 years from now. He's like a breakout season.
Yeah.
They were trying to draft a player that's going to make an impact right now, then I would draft him. But you don't need him. You have De'Aaron Fox. If I'm them, I'm drafting like a forward.
Yeah.
No, they're going to get rid of Bagley. Bagley's going to be gone. I can't see him staying after free agency. He's going to be traded.
Yeah. So my loser was the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a top 10 pick. They got Josh Giddey, who's not a bad prospect, but I think there's better people available. They also reached for Trey Mann a little bit when I felt like there was better guards on the table. They're not screwed for the future, obviously, but I would have liked to see them play a little bit differently. They're not like, they just screwed themselves over for the next 20 years. It's not really like that.
They still have so many first round picks in the next 5 years.
But I just think they could have done a little bit better. And I think for the most part in general, I think most of the teams did pretty good. So that's why I picked the Thunder as my loser. I don't think anyone's walking away disappointed here.
I mean, every team here every team, like even the Kings, they weren't horrible. Davion Mitchell wasn't a terrible pick.
Yeah.
He was probably his best available player, but that doesn't mean they should have picked him.
Yeah, my loser's is Thunder. They're not a crazy screw themselves over loser, but I just thought there was better talent on the board they could have picked. So that's going to do it, guys. Kane and Aiden, let us know what you guys think of this episode. Thoughts on the trade deadline, thoughts on the draft, thoughts on the Russ trade. That's going to be crazy to watch next year. Hit us up on TikTok at Kane and Aiden. New content coming out all the time. We got fresh, fire stuff coming to you guys.
Yes, sir.
This is Kane and Aiden. Signing off.